Everybody, welcome to our podcast again. We are deciding to do this, again.
You know where we would be if we had kept going through all these months?
Would we be past Thriller Bark?
I at least would hope we'd be past Foxy and his crew of garbage.
Yeah.
I just want to be on the other side of Foxy, because then it's a home stretch from here on out.
So
I dread the moment we get on the other side of Skypiea, and the joy washes from my face as I have to subject myself to manga filler and then anime filler, which was based off of the manga filler.
Well, you don't want to see 4 episodes of Foxy the Pirate?
I hope he never makes a comeback, but I
know...
Man,
I can't wait for him to be on Raftel.
If that happens,
Foxy Pirate
will eat your hair. So it will be a miserable experience for both of us.
No, not my split ends.
I think split ends are the least of your problems, man.
Okay, so we usually talk about a... if you're just joining in, into this, like, you saw this in going through my videos and you didn't actually know we do a podcast, it's because we haven't for a year.
But no, wait, here, I think I have it on record the last time we went to it. June of last year.
Yeah, so...
It has been over a year, because I like to keep tabs on what we do and what series we do, too. On each of the notebooks for notes I take for the series, because I can't remember stuff if I don't write it down.
Yeah, so we talk about One Piece slowly going through it 5 episodes at a time. Because weekly? Question mark?
Hopefully we'll get to a point where we can do it weekly, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows when Foxy will have his day to have stones dropped on top
We're either recording the podcast or we're recording Phoenix Wright, and so we're literally, like, rolling the dice on which one we were doing.
Mm-hmm. And I've been wanting to get back to doing this for a long time, because One Piece is going to end in about 5 years, give or take a couple decades.
Man, I can't wait for us to, like, synchronize up for some strange reason in which we actually, line up.
We need to.
No, in which we, our final episode is the week of them releasing the final chapter.
Yeah. Oh, I hope it's not that.
So, first off, we're gonna talk about a different series that we kind of wanted to do, like, a short discussion on, in which we quickly go over the first 5 episodes of a series and then talk about its overall ramifications. This week we decided to do Trigun.
Which, if you haven't watched Trigun...
It is a classic.
You need to. If you like Cowboy Bebop, you'll like Trigun.
Yeah, so,
except for one
How would you sum up Trigun, at least the first 5 episodes, in basically, like, 2 or 3 sentences?
Old West space opera meets drunken monk.
Okay.
That's how I would do it. It's the principle of, like, a monk who knows drunken martial arts, and that's what the main character is, except he's not drunk.
Yeah, so the series follows Vash the Stampede and 2
his adventures. Just his hapless adventures.
How would you describe his 2 followers in the first 5 episodes?
Oh, I wrote this down. It's, where did I put it? Jeez. I put, oh, no, we're not bounty hunters, we're tax collectors.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, worse. Yeah, so a drunken monk and the 2 and his 2 debtors are traveling through the wasteland of New Mexico.
It's high noon.
It's high noon every moment.
I tried not to blow out your mic. I hope you're proud of me.
Yeah. So, an interesting thing about Trigun as a series is the first time you're going through it, you notice something very distinct.
You know something's up and something's fishy.
Vash the Stampede, a murderer wanted for billions.
$60 billion, which coincidentally is the
billion
name of the
double
first
dollars.
double dollars, and on a planet with 2 suns and 3 moons.
Yeah, so he's a character who basically
he's a
bumbles his
character,
way
all
through
right.
every situation, and you're like, how is this guy worth this much money? And then you see him get serious, and you start going,
Episode
okay.
Episode 5, I know we're probably not going to be able to go through beat by beat.
Like, here's
but
the
there's
thing.
A moment...
I'm skipping from episode 1, in which he fought, like, a random guy in which the debt collectors thought it was Vash. And then Vash goes, oh, hi, I'm Vash. And they're like, man, I hate this. To episode 5, in which the debt collectors are like, man, those were some 3 episodes we went through. I was like, yep.
Let's go through another one.
And,
but there's a moment in this brick of episodes, because that's the first 5 episodes, that one of the characters who's hunting him rightly points out that he has a 60 billion bounty on his head, and you just don't get that by bumbling your way through stuff and not being shot. Because we have not seen him kill a single soul up until this point.
We haven't even seen him really pull out his gun besides the first episode. Mm-hmm. Like, he does it, like, every once in a while, but it's kind of like almost as an intimidation tactic.
Mm-hmm.
And then in episode 5, in which he's fighting against a big biomechanical monster, he's running to save civilians, pulls out the gun, shoots the giant hand coming at him 5 times, and it deflects it so hard it goes almost at a 90-degree angle. And it's like, whoa. And you know it's a very powerful moment, because he starts shooting the gun, it all starts to go, like, staticky with its sound of, like, almost like your blood is rushing and you can't hear anymore. You hear the guns go off, like, very quietly, and then you hear the bullets ricochet into the hand as it flies off.
Mm-hmm.
And then he takes the final bullet and he just, like, points it at him. I'm just like, okay. It's like,
and it's very clear in certain episodes that he'd rather use his bullets to buy things, to buy groceries for like a week, than to use them on people. Because he's squeamish around blood. He doesn't quite like, and he doesn't like to shoot people.
So
something's up with him. Because, as was stated, you just don't get that high of a bounty for no reason. And there is, but it'd be spoilers to talk about what happens, and this is not the series to spoil someone on.
But I will say that the one spoil I would do is the fact that it's called Trigun, and in the first 5 episodes of a series with only 13 episodes, he only uses one of his 3 guns the first time in episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
So you know every single time he pulls out a different gun, it's going to be a spectacular moment. Mm-hmm. When he pulls out the second gun, which is actually hidden inside of his trick hand, you go, oh! And he starts using that, and you're like, okay. It was like, you know, it's a little bit more manageable. But then you start wondering where the third gun is, and you think it's like this priest guy who shows up, that's going to be considered the third gun, but no.
The priest guy is the best character in the whole series. It's a shame he doesn't show up in these episodes. Does he show up in 6 or 7?
He shows up in 7. I believe.
I want to...
But either way...
But so, yeah. And also, Trigun is a good series. Not just because of well-written characters who are mostly consistent, with the exception of Vash in one episode, but I'm not here to talk about stones. I'm here to talk about the world building, because Trigun is a master of subtle background world building.
Uh-huh.
It, like, in the openings and in the backgrounds, you see that this world is not like ours, and they set the tone from, like, moment 1 with the 2 suns overhead, so it's like, okay, we're not on Earth. Wherever we are, It's a desert lawless zone. And then we start hearing more and more, at least through these 5 episodes, which is where I'm going to cap off how much I say.
Yeah.
Is that
and remember
each
that
town,
we have to give our score based off of only these 5 episodes, and then say what we believe the entire series is.
Yeah, because we've watched it.
Yeah.
It's good. But, and we learn, as soon as episode 3, we start seeing them, that these towns, or at least the still thriving living towns and not outskirt buildings and way stations in between them, are fueled, powered, and kept alive by these things called plants, which are these giant light bulbs in the sky, and they're huge. But we don't get to know a whole lot about them, except the fact that they're vital to keep people alive in a desert. So,
yeah.
So this, and if you're re-watching it, there are little clues, even as far back as the first episode, that are like, hey, I know where that's about to lead to. So I'd say Trigun is almost better as a rewatch than as a watch.
Yeah, because you start picking up on, as you said, all the subtle moments that they're like, oh yeah, I remember how that built. And then you start thinking about how it ends, and you're like, oh, yeah. The one thing I will say, though, is, especially going into, like, how to rate these 5 episodes, like, I'm gonna just say right now, first, besides the first and the 5th episode, they were all bronze. They were so bronze, I forgot about them a week after watching them.
Oh.
So I had to go back and, like, skim through the episodes going, like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. And first episode, kind of iconic, of, like, him pulling out the gun, and then it doesn't misfire. He's out of bullets because he sold all of them So he's like,
for booze, water, and food.
So he's kind of acting,
he's acting the fool.
Yeah. But then episode 5 goes around and bumps it up to a gold so hard
it almost breaks your teeth.
That the series basically stays at gold up until he pulls out the 3rd gun, in which I would call it a platinum series at that point. But there are some flaws with a lot of parts that with the series for me, so I would consider the series overall a gold. While I would give these first 5 episodes a silver, very tentative silver, I still firmly believe that the series overall becomes a very high gold into a platinum.
For me, this series is really one of those series where it's hard to take episodes out of context and have them sit side by side each other.
Yeah.
I rated all of the first 4 episodes as high silvers, and the last one as a gold. Because it felt like you could tell it was building to something, and then the payoff at the 5th episode was where that was. And for me, the series overall is a very high gold, only kept back by certain factors, which I'm not going
primarily
to talk
the
about.
final episode.
No, not that. It was the episode before that.
Oh, I kind of didn't like the final battle. I felt that it was a little bit anticlimactic. Like, the story beat was very tense and very climactic, but the way it goes about it is very anticlimactic.
That's not the episode I'm talking.
You're talking about the one before it, though, right?
No, I'm talking about the one.
Are you talking about Mile Sniper?
No, not him.
Because I have heard that
him.
people say that he is the worst character in this. I'm like, but
no, he's not the worst character.
He's got a cool gun.
How to state this without spoiling it? It's after the big moment halfway through the series,
in which it
Bash
just
goes on the lamb. That episode.
Yeah.
The first episode with him on the lamb. That one.
Oh. So the one where basically nothing happens, but they're inside of a giant ship.
No, before that.
Oof.
You know the one. You've blocked it from your mind, but you know the one.
Probably.
It's the... I understand why it happens from Vash's perspective, but that don't mean I like it.
Yeah. Well, that was...
Because Vash just isn't what he is in any of the other episodes. it's the black hole and the stone that drags it from being a platinum. So
Yeah. So I will say that,
we all can't be Cowboy Bebop, so...
yeah, we might also review Cowboy Bebop eventually, but if it's going to be Cowboy Bebop, it's not going to be the first 5 episodes, it's going to be a certain 5 episodes. Because that's where we start getting into problems with Cowboy Bebop, is that each episode, since it's very episodic...
we'd have to watch through the whole thing, like we're going to do with our next one. If we're going to...
Yeah, we're going to talk about that at the end, though. So how about we actually get into... One Piece.
Okay.
So
Let me turn back the pages.
Episode 106.
Let me get to 106. Give me a second.
It was called Trap in a Desperate Situation, and I instantly go, well, that doesn't bode well.
I just love these notes I have. Well, that's probably not important. Okay, episode 6. Yep. What I was watching had it labeled as the Trap of Certain Defeat.
Yeah,
which is the same thing.
Yeah,
really.
but we're talking about, like, how it was actually listed against, like, Crunchyroll editors.
I was watching it at Verve, so...
Yeah, Crunchyroll editors.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of the names get, like, mixed around a little bit because they're like, no, I think I could translate this better than the official ones.
Okay. So...
I watched this episode twice, and I could barely remember parts of it.
I loved this episode. But I loved it not for the action. I loved it for the back and forth between Luffy, Smoker, and Zoro. That back and forth between the 3 characters as they're racing and Zoro's like, oh, Luffy, he's hunting you. He's hunting you down. You've got a fan. And
So,
they're just racing through, and Smoker's like, get back here.
Right. Smoker was chasing them. They go into Rain Base, and they specifically enter the casino, which they directly tell...
Miss All Sunday is, and have we gotten her name yet? Or is she still Miss All
Sunday? At this
Sunday?
point, we have not.
Okay.
I believe the first time it's introduced is when Smoker says her first name.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the full name by the end of the 5th episode.
Not calling her Miss All Sunday. I forget that it's like, no, she's not her yet. She's Miss All Sunday. She's still Crocodile's girl. So.
Yeah. So while they're being chased around, Chopper kind of runs into the Shiggy. And there's a moment where
I can't see without my glasses as Chopper has telescopic vision.
I did find it kind of interesting that she gets her glasses, she bows to the talking reindeer, and then runs off, and she's not even, like, a least bit, like, huh.
That's a talking reindeer. Nope, nothing strange about this at all. But she's so polite and nice to him, though. Which is why you really have to love Tashigi, because she's just such a good person. And if she's not an admiral by the end of this series, I will riot.
So, Smoker, Zoro, Luffy, Usopp, and Nami, basically making all but one of, basically making most of the crew fall into a hole because Luffy decides to go the route that says, pirates go here. And he goes, well, we're pirates. We can't go down the VIP route. And then they turn the corner. It is immediate dead end. And they're like, oh, yeah, probably should have seen this coming. And the Smoker's like, hey, can I join in too? As they all fall into the pit.
I'd completely forgotten Usopp was in this, even though I watched it twice.
Yeah.
And I haven't written down what he did. For the life of me, Usopp was a blip. Although he technically always is. For me, I almost never concentrate on what he's doing unless it's something big.
Also...
which is more on Usopp than on me, but...
So we get introduced to one of the most important aspects of One Piece.
Is it the Sea Stone?
We finally get to talk about the Sea Stone.
The Sea Stone.
So, Sea Stone is basically...
come up before, I believe.
Once, but we didn't actually like give it enough because we knew it was going to be talked about here.
Yeah.
In which sea stone is basically a rock that basically for some reason traps the ocean's energy inside of it, and that when I was about to say stand, whenever a I've been watching a little bit too much JoJo. Whenever a devil fruit user touches the sea stone, they are immediately weakened as if they were up to their knees in water. And it's really interesting because this is explained to us because Luffy started feeling
Anytime he grabs
tired.
the bars, he's like complaining central. He's like, oh, this is the worst. This is awful.
But the real reason is that Smoker basically hits Luffy with his jute, which I did not know what a jute was until I looked it up.
I'd forgotten what a jute was.
A jute is a steel police club that they used in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
which makes a lot of sense for Smoker to have it.
Yeah, because he has the long arm of the law, so he carries around a massive stick.
Just to beat people with it.
Yeah.
Alright.
I just realized I do not know where my phone is.
I don't know where your phone is either. But, and then we cut from Luffy screaming, fight me, like an angry chihuahua, to Vivi. We cut to Vivi, who is trying not to get her dome rocked in. And, so she's fighting with some riffraff until Birdman with Gatling gun claw arms shows up.
Ow.
You still alive?
Yeah, I was trying to scoot back because I found out where my phone was. So one of the things that is really interesting about this scene is that Vivi is actually putting up a fight a little bit. She's loses
trying.
the fight, but she does
more than Usopp would. Usopp would have to run screaming and hidden in a dark alleyway to get kidnapped.
Yeah, and then Pal shows up. Pal has
one of the apparent
the falcon type zone fruit.
Which is apparently one of the only 5 fruits to grant flight, which is untrue. Because I can list an additional 5 that couldn't. Even in the zones.
And I mentioned this in my notes, but Pal doesn't seem to like being in his bird form. Every chance he gets when he's not moving, he returns to human form. It's almost like he is only in bird form when he attacks. And I feel like that's a kind of a missed opportunity. A little bit.
To have more burb?
Yeah.
And Miss All Sunday shows up.
And then basically kidnaps Vivi
and
basically shoves her arm all the way through her. And this would be really tense and really scary of like, oh no, she killed Vivi. Except for we actually know that she has hand-based powers.
She can sprout hands and body parts on any part of her body. I'm gonna let that statement stand. She can sprout body parts anywhere.
Yeah. So what, so the flower fruit, which as I realized while watching it, is actually a pun because the word for flower is like Hana, is like...
Hana?
Yeah.
Hana?
Yeah.
Hana?
So it sounds like it's hand. Like, oh, okay.
It's also one of the... We've actually recently gotten to look at what that fruit even looks like in the One Piece magazine, or I forgot the name of it, but every couple of months a magazine is released with devil fruit with like devil fruit designs, and one of them is a hana, which looks like 100 petal flower almost.
Yeah. And then Crocodile shows up. This guy who we've been building up for like 40 episodes now. Shows up. He makes a dramatic entrance with Vivi in tow, and then has a really bad laugh as he explains Operation Utopia, which is basically the next episode.
He's going to take over the world.
Yes.
Of course.
But I was too distracted with the JPEG of a crocodile swimming outside their window. It's just like, hello, and it just floats up and out.
Slow-moving banana gator.
Yeah.
Are we gonna say what the rating of that episode was, or are we gonna save it all for the end?
I bet it was a silver.
Long. I have a silver too. You know, it wasn't really remarkable, but it wasn't really bad. You know, it was kind of a run-of-the-mill One Piece episode, which is pretty good for One Piece.
Yeah. So we get into Operation Utopia in episode 17, in which we start out with a Koza flashback in so much orange that it actually started hurting my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shifted to blue and suddenly was a stage play?
Guess. And Cobra's gone crazy. Which means he's probably not a Cobra. Because we've gotten an introduction to someone who can swap faces.
Like, we instantly get in touch with, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, it's probably not him. And Koza is even looking at that, like, sideways. It's like, something's really not right here. And then he gets shot.
Yeah. So, he's laying on the ground. He goes...
As, like, a house of cards begins to fall, and the dominoes start to topple.
And then a massive pirate ship just slams into the city, just making everything combust on fire. Great. Yeah. One more thing to add to the pile of things that need to be fixed immediately.
Mm-hmm. On top of the civil unrest and the Bond villain controlling the entire island.
Yeah. So, Koza is still alive, but the only witness to the idea that Cobra is actually being played by Bon Clay in all this is a kid who can't speak up. So, I guess that's a thing.
I guess that's a thing that probably won't be resolved until, like, the 11th hour.
And it may sound kind of funny, but that's basically the end of episode 17.
Yeah, it was short.
Well,
silver.
Yeah, I think it's silver too. But since we hit this episode, what do you feel about outro 7?
It's kind of like a flashback outro. It was nice and sweet.
I like how it goes all the way to the end of this arc, basically acting as a good send-off to Vivi as a character, because she's not staying with the crew after
she's dying? She's dying next episode? Although I joke that. She might. She might. Okay. And so we get to the 8th episode now, right? The fearsome, the terrifying banana gators and Mr. Prince.
Yeah, Mr. Prince. ...
I'm certain it's just a nickname. I will harp on this until the day I die, because he's superhuman. There's something wrong with him.
After exposing this whole plan, Cobra not Cobra. A crocodile basically goes, okay, I'm gonna let you have the key to get out of here. Oh no, I dropped it by a gator who ate the other one, and now he can't decide which game, so it's just that random.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
I was like trying to follow that, and I was like,
You know, I don't even think I knew what I was saying. I'm like half asleep right now.
Yeah, it's like... this whole part of the arc, it's just full of a dozen Chekhov's guns that don't get fired off.
Since we're going to be talking
15
about like
arcs.
all 3 episodes in quick succession, kind of, because all of its plot basically sticks together. Basically, what happens is Crocodile goes, "Here's a key. I'm gonna throw it down. I'm gonna throw it onto the floor. Vivi, if you catch it, you can let your people free." He drops it on the floor. A hole opens up in the floor, and it lands inside of a crocodile, inside the banana gator's nest.
Mm-hmm.
Which I find it kind of sad that they didn't go with the better name, Croconanas.
We all can't have nice things.
So the banana
Sweet,
gators
sweet pun.
look at the key, instantly eat the key. So
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
okay.
Because they're trained to eat anything that drops down.
That gator is the exact same alligator, coincidentally, that Mr. 3 was
swallowed.
put into. That swallowed Mr. 3.
Yeah.
So basically Mr. 3 has the key stuck to his wax ball that we see in a later episode.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because it
that
was the
doesn't
only
matter
thing
anyway.
He could do to save himself, which fortunately Vivi doesn't have to take down the massive Croconana because Mr. Prince waltzes in to save the day.
Yeah.
Sanji has used up all of the brain cells that normally Nami holds on to and busts them out of prison.
Yeah, and it's actually quite ingenious.
Or like some quick thinking too.
Because he's sitting there and he goes, "How do I get his attention? Oh yeah, I will attack this random person.
Uh-huh.
I will force them to say exactly what I want into this microphone, and then I'll have Chopper turn into a human and run off with my outfit. Because that's the person that they saw as he yells, 'I am Mr. Prince,' over and over again and takes all them out."
Yeah, there's also a line from Mr. Prince I really like. And it's like I think I wrote it down because it was a really good line. And it's like, if I told you, you would get rid of me or something like that. And it's like, I wrote over it, so it's like, it was so much cooler than I remember.
Yeah. So, basically what happens is that he calls out Crocodile, who he basically responds the exact same way he did
Because
after
Crocodile
fighting...
recognizes the voice instantly. He's like, "Oh, it's you."
Yeah, so he just kind of plays with him a little bit, forcing him to send his minions out before he makes the entire thing collapse on top of them, filling it with water and taking out the
He basically sets up a classic Bond villain trap and then
Yeah.
just walks out, assuming that they're dead. Instead of, I don't know, flooding the entire room with sand and making sure that they don't get out at all and no one can stop him.
Wah. Okay, so we then have a moment in which Vivi is basically having to navigate around the crocodiles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she basically makes it out with this by the skin of her teeth. She walks into the lobby, sees that the bridge to the casino has been taken out, and the entire thing is slowly sinking into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
When out of nowhere, Sanji is right next to her, basically going, "Hey, so do you want to hear my master plan?" It's like, "Sure, okay." I was like, "Well, it involves this ring." You know?
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Okay, let's do this." And he he immediately starts going down to the bottom, which is where episode 108 ends.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about all three episodes.
Yeah, kind of going back and forth between them.
Episode 10 episode 109 is where we see a lot of the initial planning of what exactly happened. And there's actually a really funny but kind of weird gag
Uh-huh.
in the episode. Not sure how you felt about it, but Usopp basically got really close to Luffy, and his nose started poking through his cheek. Out the other side, I was like, "What?" Yeah, it would. Meanwhile, the Banana Gator is trying to get into their cell while cracking all of his teeth, and Smoker just now finds a really good moment to just go, "Hey, I'm pretty sure that was Robin. She's got a really high bounty on her." It's like, "What are you talking about?" Miss All Sunday. That's her name.
Like,
she has a big bounty.
70, right?
70,000 or something?
70,000
Or
berry,
70 million?
which is tragically low for her. It's probably 70 million. But that's tragically low for her in what we're gonna figure out about her.
Yeah.
It should be 3 times as high.
She
should currently be one of the most wanted people in the world. And not for any reasons like strength or speed or even her devil fruit. You could take all 3 of those off of the table. The fact that she's a cunning fighter, the fact that she's smart, you can take all of that off, all of her talent and all of her power, and she still should be the most wanted person in the world. Her bounty is still too low.
Yeah.
And it has grown since this encounter we see in Alabasta.
But we do not have time to deal with ramifications of Nico Robin showing up, so we
just know that
instead
we can
have
call her Robin now.
Yeah, we now have I was like the crocodile's still coming in, and then Sanji comes and just kicks him with the bad manners. What was it? Bad manners kick course. Yeah.
The bad manners full course or something.
Kick a course. But yeah, it's kind of funny to kind of sit there and just go like, that was a lesson. Stuff like that.
Uh-huh. And so the water keeps rising. Is that the moment where the wax ball shoots out?
No, that was earlier.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens is...
I'm getting stuff, like, twisted around a bit.
Yeah. So Sanji is sitting there going, okay, how do we get the key? And it's like, and Smoker's like, well, it's in that one because I can identify by its growl. And everyone goes, Smoker, you're not human, are you?
You're wasted in his current position.
So everyone
he is being wasted.
So everyone that could beat up Cinnamon. And suddenly out of that alligator's mouth comes the wax ball that Mr. 3 put himself into.
To try and save himself.
Not sure how he survived all this time, but okay.
But I'm sure he's not sure either.
Because it's like several days, right?
I don't know. It's anime logic, so it probably doesn't even matter.
So Mr. 3 is standing there, and he's acting like a jerk. And he's like, I'm never gonna give you the key. Throws it. It's like, you can't make me. And it's like, oh yeah? Why not? And then it cuts back to Crocodile going, that's because I have the real key, haha. And then immediately cuts to a beaten up Mr. 3 putting his finger into the slot to make
make a wax key.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh hey, that's really nice.
That's actually really useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the roof collapses.
Yeah.
You okay, man?
Yeah, I'm just... Okay, you don't want to know what the thing that's been bothering me the whole time?
What?
There is absolutely no form of OSHA regulations at all in this entire world. Because who the heck creates a casino with a sub-basement on open water?
It reminds me of like that meme from like Shrek 2 where it's like, we don't even have dental, and Shrek goes, they don't have dental. It's like, it's that same thing. It's like, we don't even have OSHA. It's like, they don't even have OSHA.
Yeah.
Because you know who OSHA would be.
Yeah.
It'd be Smoker.
So all of the water...
Smoker's their only hope for OSHA regulations.
Yeah. So,
So the roof break caves in.
No. First, Sanji, basically puts a piece of paper on number 3, beats him up so it knocks him out. The entire place starts falling apart. And then they all appear outside as everyone gets saved. Even Smoker gets like pulled out of the water, but he's like stiff as a board.
Yeah.
He's like, boonk, he just lands down. It's great.
To the surprise of no one, because Luffy turned to Zoro, who was about to leave him to die, and Luffy turned and ordered Zoro to bring him up as well. And you can see Zoro's face. He's just like, we're gonna regret this. We're gonna regret this promptly after I do this.
Yeah.
And it's like the Walking Dead text box. Smoker will remember this.
Yeah. So Smoker basically has his juke pulled out and he's aiming at Zoro, basically like, why'd you save me? And his response was, because my boss told me to.
It's nothing personal. It's just Luffy's
I don't
the
hate
boss.
you enough to murder you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And so he basically puts it down going, okay, you can, it was like, you can, as all the soldiers start running past him to grab the Straw Hats, he's like, yeah, you can kind of stand down. It's okay. He's gonna get out of here.
You can go just this once. Cuts to time skip.
Yeah.
Just this once.
Yeah. And honestly,
And
Smoker shows once again why he is one of my favorite characters, because
so good.
Comes in,
Such a
he
good-
seems like a very one-note character, and then he turns into someone very deep and insightful, and it's
because
great.
he's one of the few honest characters that are so-called villains of the series, because everyone's a pirate, so the bad guys are either other pirates or they're the Marines. And Smoker is just one of those characters where even from the start, when he accidentally knocks over a little girl who runs into him, and then here, he has a sense of honor to him. He can tell that Luffy is not the biggest problem on the board right now, even though he might lose his job for it.
Yeah. So... I do like the moment in which the guy who he's giving orders to is like, what about your superiors? And he goes, what about my superiors? And he goes, run away, sir. Whereas do I look like I care about my bosses right now?
There are so many characters that if Smoker could have met them in the future, or if Smoker could have met them, he would have instantly bonded with them after they got over the friendship hump.
Unfortunately, we all know who his boss is, because where there's smoke, there's lava.
And fire.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are holes where other fire should be.
Hey now, we're trying to keep a very PG-centric show right here. We can't be alluding to some mature-rated stuff.
That's not.
And the funniest thing is, they don't. It's like people who do not know the actual scene somehow, who have missed it somehow.
And it's often the first thing you hear about.
Yeah.
These days.
They could
whenever
accidentally
Luffy comes
mistake that for not actually violent act, and instead being a different type of
Bow,
mature
chicka,
act.
bow, wow.
No, get out of here.
I'll see myself out, guys.
So because all of the soldiers have basically stopped chasing them, they're like, "Oh,
We gotta
okay.
meet back up with.
We gotta meet back up with Chopper and whatever the heck the camel's name was, because not even they remember who the camel's name is."
Heck if I know who that camel is.
And so the happy crab shows up again.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the happy crab from a previous episode, right?
Loosely.
And so the happy crab shows up and they're like, hey, this is faster than anything else. And my mind immediately jumps to, wait, why did this town harness the crabs to, like, go after this?
It doesn't seem a much more steady source of
Oh, crocodile's here. And so it's like literally like, well, everyone get onto the crab. I'm like, wait a second, something about this doesn't feel right. And I was like, is it the fact that crocodile's here? I was like, no, it's the fact that the world doesn't explain that. Oh my gosh, crocodile's here. What the heck are we doing here? And
you know this isn't the last fight because we've still got like 25 episodes left of
yeah,
this
but
whole
could
arc.
you imagine, like, reading the manga at the time, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna make it to Albarna, we're doing it, and then Vivi just gets grabbed by his hook, Luffy exchanges out, and they're standing each other down in the middle of the desert as they're running off as fast as they can to stop the army, and you're like, is this where the battle's gonna... Is this the final battle? And then you realize instantly, oh no, this isn't gonna be a final battle. It's like one of those. It's like one of those video games in which you're specifically supposed to lose to show, hey.
It's like a scripted event where it's like a cutscene where you lose despite the
I
fact
forgot about
that...
the best joke.
What? Which
Okay,
one?
so Smoker comes up out of the water, okay?
Uh-huh.
And he still has one of the cigars in his mouth.
Uh-huh.
And he's sitting there, and when he dismisses the guy, it was like, he goes off, and then he puts the second cigarette in his mouth, like, there I go, now I'm complete. I completely forgot about this. It's such a good visual gag, it's great.
Yeah, it is, because it's like, oh no, I've lost half of me.
Yeah.
There I go. Now I'm full Smoker again.
Yeah. So we have this battle. Crocodile specifically calls Robin by her full name and then sends her off after she kind of chuckled a little bit, going like, oh, this is gonna be interesting. I was like, why? What's wrong, Nico Robin? I was like, I use my full name. What the heck, dude?
It's like, you gave me the code name. You could at least use it.
And then he's like, oh, I know you're gonna betray me in like 5 seconds. Don't worry about it.
And you can tell that at this point, even she's starting to see the writing on the wall. And she saw it back in Rain Base. It's like, huh.
Yeah.
Well, time to go cash my chips elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because she is a gambling woman, and that's what she's done from the start.
So he then pulls out a really interesting, dart, in which it's an hourglass on it, and it goes, that's regulated for 3 minutes, and no, it would not get jumbled up by the throwing. It immediately starts when it lands. Don't worry about the timing.
It's like 3 minutes. Set your clocks for 20. Okay, we're in for a proper shonen fight.
Yeah. So Luffy uses every single move in his arsenal.
Every trick he's got.
He used every move that he used against Arlong, eventually even using the net, which I thought he only used in that one fight.
Because you can't remember it anywhere else, because this fight often gets confused, especially in my mind, with the next fight Luffy's in.
Yeah.
Because you forget that this was the first time he went toe-to-toe with Crocodile.
The problem is that Luffy's moves go through him because he's a Logia user.
Mm-hmm.
And
he does
him being a Logia user basically means that his entire body can just separate apart into a raw element and then combine back together, just like Smoker.
And this is how we know that Luffy is in fact not a Logia. He's a Paramecia.
But they do actually bring up a little bit in this episode the idea that a Paramecia can become a Logia fruit if they train hard enough. He basically says, you don't have enough strength and skill to become like me, effectively.
Well, he's right. Because there's also other reasons as well.
But it's...
Do we want to use the term, what is it? It's like When a devil fruit is at its peak strength, what's the term for that?
I don't know.
Because I've completely forgotten what the term is.
I want to say apex, like the apex of their skill, but that's not exactly the phrase. Fully mastered doesn't really feel like it. But the one thing I will say is that,
It's
with all of the like sand going around, it's very interesting. Just saying of like
awakened.
Awakened.
That's the term, and we should use it now, even though the term doesn't come up because Crocodile probably is.
In power, it literally goes.
He's
Paramecia,
middle-aged.
Logia. It goes Paramecia, Zoan, awakened Paramecia, and then Logia.
Mm-hmm. Which it's really easy to awaken.
But there are some times in which
you can awaken.
Certain types of Logia get countered by even regular Paramecia, and sometimes even matchup. By certain types of Zoan users.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like the most interesting thing, an animal that can counter an element, you know?
Mm-hmm. It just depends on their skill. Because as we'll see with Luffy, skill sometimes is key. But in this fight, Luffy doesn't have the skills to pay the bills. So he gets a hook through his chest.
Yeah, because he's just like... because what happens is...
Because he tries to eat him, and he almost dies.
Oh my gosh. So we forgot to mention one thing. He didn't just use every move in his arsenal. He also used Wapol's like eating technique, and then the Crocodile shoots out of his mouth going, "What are you doing? Stop!"
That's like, you had to have known that that wouldn't work.
The best part about that move is that it should have worked.
If it had been any other Logia, it might have.
No, what happened right before this moment was Crocodile shows off an ability in which he grabs onto his arm and he drains all the water out of it, basically mollifying his arm.
Like what he did with Mr.
So he goes,
almost.
Yeah, so he goes, huh? So he starts drinking water and he gets a super muscle arm. It's like, yeah, he should have still had the water in his mouth, and we're gonna come up over this when the final battle actually happens.
Devil fruit weaknesses.
But he has water in his mouth, so that should be some sort of effective against sand. And you actually see in the animation, he actually does become a little bit of mud as he's coming out of the mouth because of the coloring.
Uh-huh.
And I went, that's clever. You
didn't
go down that road,
to detail,
but
you couldn't have seen in the manga.
Yeah, you fixed this detail that they didn't bring up in the manga because it wasn't in color.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts using Sablés techniques, which is French for sand.
Mm-hmm.
Which...
Unsurprising.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Luffy kind of realizes, oh, every single sandstorm that has ever hit that small village that Kosa's dad, I forget his name. Do you remember it?
Toto.
Every single,
Because I wrote it down because I was gonna forget, because he shows up at the beginning of episode 7.
Yeah. He, every single time it's brought up that town, Luffy gets a little bit more upset. Because he realizes, this is the guy that is making it uninhabitable to live in a place, and he cannot abide by this much suffering.
It makes you kind of think... Here's the thing that just crossed my mind, and this doesn't really come into play until much, much later on, when we see what a Logia is capable of. That there's always this overhanging shadow over certain areas that are questioning it. What if this isn't the first time this fruit has been to Alabasta?
You know, it makes a lot of sense considering that the place itself is a desert.
The entire island is a desert.
And
it just makes you think. And I didn't even think about this until now. It's like, is it possible even someone in, like, a former king did this to their own country just to get other people away from it? Because it doesn't have to necessarily be that someone did this to spite the the Nefeltari family, which is possible, but it's that someone wanted to get someone off of this island. And now it's back, and it's causing just as much problems. Because we've only seen oases. We haven't really seen any lush forest, which probably would be closer to the rivers or to the sea, but it's sand as far as the eye can see, and this isn't no small island. This is a sizable island. This is the island of Alabasta.
So, Luffy then gets stabbed with the hook as he's kind of freaking out, going, "No, I'm not gonna have you destroy that town," and they get stabbed by it, going, "Well, your time's up. I'm out of here." Mm-hmm. And it's like, ow.
The Luffy is out of his depth. If you ever wanted a clear mark where Luffy is in this arc, that's where it is. He's not even good enough to last 3 so-called minutes with Crocodile. He's not good enough.
And he's not going to have enough time to go on a training arc like most shonen. He's just going to have to grin and bear it through all the other fights he's going to go through.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to talk about this because all 3 of those episodes, in conjunction, make one big make one big gold.
But when you separate them out,
they each become like high silvers.
Oh yeah, because I have that down too. Where if you're looking at these in a group, they're gold because they're a really good system.
Because could you imagine stopping in the middle?
Good. Oh, that would ruin the pacing. Because the pacing of these episodes is really good to be watched back to back to back.
And I'm talking about like everything from when Sanji breaks them out to the end of this fight. If you don't watch all of it in like a block, it loses a bit of its punch. Mm-hmm. Like maybe a little bit of the crocodile fight doesn't need to be addressed, but the entirety of like
of the jailbreak
both of them together is a gold.
Uh-huh.
Added to it, the battle with Crocodile is just losing his patience.
Uh-huh.
Is a gold.
Yeah.
So I would give it a gold, but it is technically a silver.
It's a gold on the contingency you can watch all 5 episodes back to back and not stop.
Well, at least the last 3 episodes that we did. Mm-hmm. I feel a little spoiled by modern anime.
Mm-hmm.
You
do.
There are moments in each individual episode, as I discussed, that go a bit slow, in which everything kind of stops.
Yeah. Which it's really easy to dismiss the pacing because it's just an older anime and they reuse shots to like slow down the pacing a bit because that's just what was done. But modern day anime, even in modern day One Piece, it's snappier. It's so much snappier. Because I am current with the One Piece manga. I'm not current with the One Piece anime. Haven't been for a long time. It's because I love the manga of this series. It's amazing. One of the newest characters is now the wall screen for my phone. Isn't he a charmer?
Yeah. So, my thing is that I enjoy anime a lot more than manga, and that is because a lot of the things that I like in motion, and I like and I like sound to go with it. Mm-hmm. It's why there are certain moments in anime in which I just go like, yeah, that was a good call. I kind of don't want to invoke its name right now, but there is an anime that we have discussed in the past where a much taller boy is looking at a smaller girl than him, and he just goes, "Hi," and it's not and it's just like such a tense moment that it doesn't have the same punch if you can't hear his exasperated voice, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if it's the English version, if it's the Japanese version, both of them do it excellently. But you just need that little bit of sound.
I think I know what anime you're talking about. As my anime who shall not be named, or a different one.
It's one that we have talked about recently.
Okay, all right.
And
oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right.
And there's so much of that series that is so much better in motion. And since the anime is still trying to get caught up to the manga, I'm reading the manga and there's just something missing.
Yeah. It's like, and it's, especially with that one in particular, it's just so colorful. And not being able to see the colors really makes it not pop as much.
Yeah.
Like, color and sound and voice acting belong in this story. Whereas in One Piece, it skates by on the merit of its fantastic art and fantastic story.
We might do the first 5 episodes of that series, but we will only do it after season 2 comes out because I want both.
Okay.
Because both of us need to basically sit down and watch the entire 2 seasons, because I'm at the part of the manga in which it actually starts getting good with the story, and I'm like,
oh, that one.
Yeah.
I was confused on which one.
Yeah.
Now and my statement still stands.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed, but my statement still stands. It's just colorful for different reasons.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I really don't like the fact that I have to wait for it to even, like, invoke its name, but
it's okay.
We'll talk about other series in the meantime.
Yeah.
But final verdict, though, I'm going to be very passive, and I'm going to give it a gold.
I'm going to give, on the contingency we are grouping all of these in the same package, a gold.
Yes.
The instant we start to piecemeal them all out,
they all become silver.
They're all silvers.
So altogether,
silvers.
they are all very good silvers, but as a
they
collective
so
bunch
nicely.
Of them infiltrating Rain Base and then them escaping is a gold.
And let's just say this won't be the last time that Luffy goes to prison either. And not because he was arrested. He's just in prison again. I was like, dude, you just can't stop, can you? He's always winding up in prison.
Okay, so I wanted to, so for next week we're going to be doing, episodes, 111 to 115. And we're going to be doing a series that I made sure that we watched before doing this podcast again. And that is, we are going to be doing all 10 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1.
You could see the look in my face, right?
In the grand scheme of things, it might as well just be the first 5 episodes.
Because
we did watch the first 5
like
episodes.
The first spit in the bucket of like the entire wonderful torrent of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
You don't really understand how little of the series IJ has actually watched.
It's so few. I've seen mostly season 3, parts of season 2, half of 4, and then like 1, which I've seen twice now, but for the life of me I can't remember.
Don't worry. I can basically recite that from memory. It's like burned in my head so much because of going through it several times with several different people and like talking about it in multiple places.
And then with me.
Yeah. But I will say that like it's an interesting case study because we're both going to be talking about JoJo as a series, but we're actually going to be talking about part 1 and how a series can start off
completely different from where it winds up. If you want, like, just compare the art from season 1 to even season 4. They're completely different.
Yeah.
Like, the characters look like they belong in drastically different series. and not from the same bloodline.
And comparing the same characters from part 3 to part 5 becomes even more tenuous because you're like, what? They didn't look like that.
Don't hurt my baby.
Yeah. So next time we're going to be reviewing those. We're also going to be talking about JoJo Part 1. See you guys next time.
See you guys. Bye.